Thank you. I'll open the Norfolk County Advisory Board Finance Committee meeting. The executive order on remote participation on Wednesday, March 29, 2023. Governor Healy signed into law Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. The Act making appropriations for fiscal year 2023, which includes a 2-year extension of the option for public bodies to hold remote meetings by suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20. That action was effective immediately, extending the current option for remote meetings through March 31st, 2025. So we'll take the roll call. So Mr. Reardon, present. Mr. Connors, present. Ms. Field,
present.
and the chair is present. So we do have a quorum. We're only missing Dr. Childs. Thank you, sorry. Who was running late. So we'll get started on the first item, which is the fiscal 24 first supplemental budget transfer request. I will turn it over to Mr. Cronin, to the director. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to present the September or second supplemental request for FY24. This request, if you received your packet, information totals $2,504,400. I have a slide deck which I will go through with you from a financial perspective. You'll see the same content when we get to the advisory board. This also includes update on ARPA, and I'm prepared to go through that with the finance committee if you so choose. I've got folks involved in the ARPA piece, but if you're interested, I'll be happy to spend some time going through that. Meanwhile, to the county supplemental needs, in your package, you'll see a slide deck. We'll start at page number 3. As you'll see, the county closed fiscal year 23 with a $2.586 million surplus. Normally at this time of year, we consider transfers to the stabilization account, the OPEB liability. I'm recommending, as you can see in the call out, that we defer action on both those items because in a minute I'll show you a couple of the overall goals for this fiscal year is to stay liquid, fluid. I want to maintain some degree of financial control at this point over spending so early in the fiscal year, given the uncertainty of some of our projected revenue. We may revisit these items towards the end of fiscal year 24. This group may recall that the FY24 capital spending budget is $575,000. This particular supplemental is drawing $337,400. The details will be discussed in just a moment. And as you all know, we forward fund in our FY24 budget pursuant to general law, it's chapter 35, a percentage of that budget from prior year's surplus, and that is $712,611. If the finance committee and advisory board look favorably upon this request this evening, that'll leave that balance at approximately $961,126 for the remainder of fiscal year 24. Slide 4, Bill. Members of the committee may recognize and begin to recognize some of the layouts consistent with what I've used the last couple of years. There are some notes associated with the fiscal picture, and I just wanted the finance committee herein to see sort of a brief history of the last 5 to 6 years of surplus. The 2.6 million is a decent surplus. It does not, however, resemble what we experienced in FY21 or 22, but it does exceed the surplus in the prior year. So it's a decent position to be in. Stabilization fund balance currently is reported at $6,084,181.92. or just under 17% of the total operating budget for FY24. The Abrahams Group, in its financial policy recommendations to the county, recommends that we fund our stabilization at between 5 and 20% of our general appropriation. You can see we are trending in the upper end. Perhaps we can reach a little closer by the end of fiscal year 24. We'll see how that plays out. OPEB liability, we had our GASB 7475 report come in January. It reported an overall liability of $40,129,000. We made a contribution FY23 of $100,000. We'll make another $100,000 out of the basic budget to offset that liability just below $40 million as shown. So to satisfy our auditors and bondholders, this regular and recurring payment is what the county has been enjoying the last several years with some additional expenditures, which may be revisited later in fiscal year 24. Slide 5, go. The supplemental needs are very brief. They're dominated by one item. I'll start with IT. Our CIO has submitted 2 items, one for $14,100 for a Dell server and rack station for engineering, as well as software for the Tyler Cloud reporting system. An additional $15,000 will be to support temporary salaries of retired individuals who may assist the CIO in his work on the ground test optimization team registry needs. Very briefly, the register requested $50,000 in temporary salaries in its budget for FY24. Unfortunately, due to the 2.5% growth model I was following, he could not afford that, so it was removed. The commissioners told the register in spring it could be revisited. The commissioners revisited the number and decided to split approximately $30,000. $15,000 will go with information technology, and $15,000 will go back to the registry. So you'll see that in just a minute as the offset. So the register requested $50,000. The commissioner supported 15 for the registry and 15 for the IT department. Just to underline again, the technology department's funding support the registry of deeds ground tech system optimization team's work. Sam's going to work with Rich Kennedy, Gary Rubin, and Jim Lippy to tap their brains on ways to optimize that software, which was envisioned by the registry.
John, can I ask you a question? Go ahead. The temporary salaries that the registrar asked for, so we asked for 50,000.
Yeah.
We're basically allocating 30,000. But was the 50,000 inclusive of the temp salaries for the BT optimization as well for this request?
No, I would say it was not.
So,
But
I
I need to interrupt you for a
Yeah.
second because you're not deliberately conflating. He originally asked for 50 in his FY24 budget request, didn't get it. So then he submitted a supplemental request of the same dollar amount. And in the letter, he suggested that the temp salaries could be used to offset Mr. Evans's optimization team. We prefer to put those dollars under the control of the chief information officer. Does that make sense?
yeah, that makes
Those silences. Moving on, so you'll see under the registry of deeds, the $15,000 coming in. This evening, you'll be asked to consider a motion to reduce the registry of deeds FY24 budget as a result of their FY23 spending. You'll see the math in that call-out box. That grows the actual spending by 2.5%. It results in an adjustment to the previously approved number by $18,105.75. You'll see in the motion we plan to reduce that from a certain area in his operating budget. You'll allow me to briefly just take a moment to take this call from the treasurer, just to show assistance. I might help. Yep. Yeah, I'll have Bill Buckley do that for you, okay? We're in the middle of a finance committee right now. Okay. Likely, that's correct. Yeah. All right, thanks, Mike. He's all set. Moving on, so you'll see a motion to adjust the FY24 budget at the back of this presentation. The Norfolk County Agricultural High School has sent in a couple of requests, which will be displayed on the summary budget sheet that Phil Tosca prepares. It's a net zero outcome. We're looking to fund $15,000 to the advisory board for legal services associated with the loss of the registry of deeds. Slide 6, Bill. Maintenance is looking to fund $50,000 for Rentham District Court exterior painting and carpentry work. And similarly, we just received notice within the last few weeks that Dedham District Court elevator needs to be replaced. It is at end of life. We have 2 estimates, one from the existing vendor, one from a non-existing vendor. This value falls in the middle of those two estimates. So it'll be put out to bid as we look to replace that critical access tool for the Dedham district. That'll be a reimbursable expense for the property.
Is it a lift or an elevator?
Commissioner's office has $2,500 in unpaid bills from prior years, 3. And as in FY 22, we're going to carry a contingency in the event we experience any unexpected supply stream increases or inflationary costs associated with estimates. $5,000. So that's the total supplemental request for FY 24, $337,400. I'll pause briefly if there are any questions on the dollars or the asks therein before I move on to some observations, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody have any questions for the director? Barbara?
John, the new elevator, was this a surprise or should we have known about this, that it was coming and it should have been planned for?
I would characterize it as more of an unexpected development. The elevator is likely, I don't know this, but it's likely original to the building that was constructed in the 1930s. It has received upgrades over the past few years. It is regularly maintained, Barbara. As a result of some recent recurring repairs over the same components, the recommendation of the elevator lift people, that is Otis and United, those are the two quotes we received, was that it just has reached end of life. So in short, it was not expected, but there has been a fair amount of repair on the elevator because of its age.
Okay, all right, thank you.
But it's currently not in opera.
It is not, it's just gonna go through a point in time where Otis is out there regularly repairing it until we replace it. Good money on that.
Will it pass the connected inspection?
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Slide 7, Bill. These are just footnotes or observations I'd like to let you folks in the advisory board aware of. The county commissioners have moved into a space with respect to the ARPA grant funds. You'll see in a moment a distribution of how the commissioners are envisioning the use of these funds. But briefly, they're looking to move $250,000 to the Wallace Recreational Facility, $369,000 to the commissioner's use, $80,000 for the treasurer, $1 million to facility, and the schools $369,000. This presents sort of a good skewing of or distribution of funds associated with this grant. You'll get a better picture of how that lands in the overall scheme in just a moment. We are looking this evening for your approval on a separate $2 million withdrawal from the Capital Improvement Fund. This would be to offset a new HVAC system in the Dedham Superior Court. This project could have some offset in a year with ARPA if sufficient funds present themselves. So in effect, we will be looking for the county to front the money from capital, get the work done, and then if we sit here in 6 to 12 months and find ourselves in possession of a surplus in ARPA that we could use against eligible projects, this would be a prime relief space for that, okay? Letter C, the county has completed its FY 21 audit. It is posted on our website. It's been accepted and signed off on by the commissioners. We are now moving to bid the audit services to begin the FY 22, 23, and 24 audits without delay. Incidentally, that audit for the first time included a CFA audit, which is an audit of federal grant receipts, because we received CARES money in FY 21 and put us over the $750,000 threshold. So our audit has now been filed as well with the federal government as required. Letter D. The county is also exploring an electric vehicle charging station grant through the state and the utility providers in each of the ports, the school, and Wallace Recreational Facility. Without getting into the details of the project, it would be fully funded by the grant and the utility. There would be no necessary funds at this point that we envision the county would have to support. These charging stations would be available at these public locations for the public use. They'll have a paywall associated with an app that would run through your phone that would pay for not just the app's use, but utility costs as well. It's too early to determine whether or not the county can quote make money on this. We'll have to figure that out when the time comes.
Can I ask a question on that?
Please.
So it is, the utility installs the charging stations themselves?
Effectively, what's happening, Joe, is the utility companies, that's Eversource, National Grid, are partnering with a company called Commonwealth Electric, which is a separate entity. They are the ones that are working with the customers, the public partners in the DEP grant to install and manage the grant. Okay, so they've used this third party to help facilitate the receipt of the money, the proper installation of the devices. So I don't believe the vertical structure, Joe, is going to be installed by Eversource. It's going to be installed by Commonwealth Electric. Eversource will be a partner with them to bring the electrical line from the building service out to the devices. Make sense?
So if I were to charge my car, I would be paying Commonwealth Electric and then whatever happens.
No, it's actually a third-party app. I already forget the name of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's an app run on your phone. And you're a good guy, so I know you would not sit at that station excessively and tie up the space. But if you were somebody like Paul Connors, for example, and he was a bad guy, and he wanted to sit on that charging station while he worked all day, he's going to get fined on the app for tying up the electrical cord for a period exceeding, I think, 30 minutes after you're fully charged. You'll start getting fined against your usage, and it incrementally goes backwards to effectively charge you for the full tank, if that's what happens. So there's an incentive. You'll get a ping pong that says time for you to unplug and move your vehicle to allow Joe to commit. It's a pretty smart system.
Yeah, and they probably won't because I don't like Joe.
All right. Any other questions, Joey?
No, I was just curious how that worked.
Last item, I want to reiterate, despite a healthy surplus, the county plans to slow down spending in the first half of the fiscal year to protect this available surplus. We'll evaluate more aggressive spending in December, and that could include transfers to stabilization or OPEB. We are eyeing modest additional renovations, which have not come to light yet in one of our facilities. But other than that, we really need to stay in a position to rescue our bottom line if it's needed. I know you all read the news, you know what the interest rates are doing, how the market's doing. We'll take our snapshot in the mid-year and figure out what's necessary. Eric, I mentioned at the outset, I'll be happy to go through an ARPA presentation as we approach the hour 5:20. I'm happy to do so, but at this point, that concludes the county's request for the second budget adjustment that we started with. If you want to, we can jump over ARPA, come back to it, and move forward with the motions if that's your call.
What's the pleasure of the board? I mean, a lot of the ARPA update is, it's a narrative.
It is. I believe it won't require, the ARPA does not require a vote of the finance committee. The reason I'm presenting it this evening is because you have up to 28 representatives of cities and towns that have received these funds. The county commissioner's done, in my opinion, a wonderful job managing this grant. They deserve all the credit to inform the board tonight that 26 out of the 28 communities have received funds. There's a really good story, and they need to know that as representatives of their various governments. So that's why we're doing it. It's a good way to let you know what's going on.
Who are the two outstanding communities?
Brookline, and actually it's not 27. This afternoon, the commissioners approved Plainville.
It's down to one, so only Brookline.
Yes, Brookline has an item before the portal. It's under construction. It's very large, but it has not. So
On those other ones, are they fully funded?
I think what you mean is, have they received all their money?
Yes.
No, some have. I know off the top of my head, Medway, Millis come to mind. Avon.
I don't know if we got ours yet. I checked with our treasurer a couple days ago, and I thought she had told me we hadn't seen the fund yet. But that could be, I'm not sure.
We can start call,
Yeah.
but there are communities. Randolph's another one. You got all your money because you're using it for a large scale infrastructure. I think you're doing that.
What treatment?
Yeah, the same thing with Medway and Millis. They put theirs through PFOD. Somehow, but most of them are somewhere in the middle.
Chair, through you.
Yes.
I just said these are not stupid questions, but The funds for the Alzheimer's Association and the Financial Literacy Program, that'll be managed by the county, or how does it? What's the Alzheimer's?
So the Alzheimer's,
And we forget.
the program came before the commissioners in the spring. To introduce an appeal for their assistance. They were hit hard like a lot of nonprofits during the pandemic because they were inhibited by their ability to raise funds through their walk, which is held in Foxborough. Their fundraiser is a major source of research funding for this disease. The commissioners felt that the Alzheimer's Association as a nonprofit was one of those rare opportunities where the commissioners could run the program for the benefit of all Norfolk County communities at the same time. This doesn't benefit just Norwood or Wellesley or Randolph. It benefits everyone, and it's hosted here in Norfolk County as a statewide fundraising effort in Foxborough Stadium. The particular grant will push the need for advertising and promoting the fundraiser, which occurs in October 23 and then again in October 2024. This afternoon, the commissioners awarded $127,850 to that organization. They're over the moon. It gives them a real good leg up to use these funds and not previously raised funds to promote the need to join them. I believe October 13th. I could be wrong, but it's in mid-October when this fundraiser.
You know if they do anything with the councils on aging or Old Colony Elder Services?
Directly, I don't know that. I would imagine they touched it. Would you like me to hit the ARPA update or would you like to move to the motions?
Those are my only questions.
I'm all set.
Barbara, do you have any questions on the slide deck so far?
You'll hear the
No,
ARPA.
I'm fine.
Okay, then why don't we go ahead on to the motions?
That'll be slide 16, Chairman.
All right. So we are, when you recommend, we're gonna be taking the motion to recommend to the advisory board. So does everybody have a copy of the? So somebody wants to make a motion. Motion number one. Written. If you'd like to read it, you can. If not, I'd be happy to read it on it. Okay. So the motion that Mr. Reardon is making is a motion to recommend to the advisory board to revise the fiscal year 24 registry of deeds appropriation pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 64D, Section 12, from $3,305,713.22 to $3,287,607.47, a reduction of $18,105.75, based on actual fiscal 23 registry of deeds expenditures of $3,207,421.92, with said revised amount funded by a minimum of $1,820,000, which is 40% to fund fiscal 24 registry of deeds appropriation and indirect costs from fiscal year 24 deeds excise estimate. Said reduction shall be from account number 00134052750000000.00 office machinery and appliance repairs. We have a motion.
Second motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, it's a roll call vote because we are on Zoom. Mr. Reardon? Aye. Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Ms. Seal?
Yes,
And the chair votes yes, so the motion passes unanimous. Motion number two. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 35, Section 28B. Motion to recommend to the advisory board to approve the withdrawal and appropriation of $2 million from capital improvement fund to fund the Denver Superior Court heating, ventilation, and air conditioning HVAC project. First study received from Aviv Associates, August 11th, 2023. This will require a 2/3 vote of the full board.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, roll call vote. Mr. Reardon.
Aye.
Mr. Connors.
Yes.
Ms. Sarah.
yes,
And we are now joined by Dr. Childs.
Yes,
And the chair votes yes. So the unanimous passes. Motion number 3 is a motion to fund a total of $2,504,400 inclusive of supplemental capital and transfer needs as provided in the attached fiscal year 24 second budget adjustment form.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? Roll call vote. Mr. Redden.
Aye.
Mr. Connors.
Yes.
Dr. Childs.
Yes.
Ms. Sarah.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So once again, unanimous vote. So thank you very much for that. I'll now take a motion to approve the minutes of the open session meeting of July 10th, 2023.
So moved.
Did everybody get a chance to look at them? I'm sorry. So we have a motion. So we have a second.
Yep, second.
Second. We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, roll call vote. Mr. Redden.
Aye.
Mr. Connors.
Yes.
Mr. Childs.
Aye.
Ms. Sarah.
Aye.
And chair votes yes. Votes aye. Okay, do we have any emergency items or any topics that we did not anticipate for tonight? Okay, then I will take a motion to adjourn. The motion.
Second.
Second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, roll call vote. Mr. Redden.
Yes.
Mr. Marcus.
Yes.
Childs.
Aye.
Ms. Sarah.
Yes.
And the chair votes aye. That was quick.
Bill, we're ready. Welcome, welcome. All right.
Go.
Get everybody seated. Bill has us on recording, I believe.
Yes.
All right. All right, before we start, so I'd like to call the meeting to order. Before we start, we have a couple announcements. The first announcement is that in running these hybrid meetings, it's very clear when one person speaks, but it is a complete muddle for people who are on the computer when there's more than one person speaking at a time in this room. So I just ask you to help me with that. I will try to be really clear about who's going next if we've got multiple people to speak, but that would be a big help. All right, and the second thing I want to just let you know is that there is a tornado warning for Norfolk County right now. And should we lose power and not be able to continue the meeting, I will take a motion at that moment, even from the people in the room, to adjourn the meeting, and we will reschedule.
It was called on at 5:30. It was called on at 5:45.
Okay,
It was called on at 5:00.
all right, so just be prepared, and obviously, I hope people will be careful on the vote. So I hope nobody has any harm. Okay, so let's start with a pledge of allegiance. Mr. Connors, would you do that? All right.
Well, I pledge allegiance.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. All right. Ms. Searles, our clerk, are you ready to call the roll?
Yes, I am.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay. Avon,
Present.
Bellingham,
Present.
Braintree,
Here.
Brookline,
Here.
Canton,
Here.
Cohasset, Dedham,
Here.
Dover, Foxborough, Franklin,
Here.
Holbrook,
Here.
Medfield,
Here.
Medway, Millis, Milton,
Here.
Needham, Norfolk, Norwood, Plainville,
Present.
Quincy,
Here.
Randolph,
Present.
Sharon,
Yeah.
Stoughton, Walpole, Wellesley is here, Westwood,
Here.
Walpole's here, sorry. Walpole's here.
okay, Weymouth, and Rentham.
I have 72.29. Quorum.
I think Cohasset, did you get acknowledged that you're here? Diane, I think you were muted. We're trying to enter you.
Just trying to get back on right now.
All right. Bill, and what's the percentage with Cohasset?
Let me add them. Let's see. It is 74.18.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you.
Thank
Bill.
you, and I'm present. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you, Diane. All right. We have no reason to go into executive session tonight. So we're gonna move right on to agenda item number 4, which is the FY24 first supplemental budgeted transfer request. And I'm gonna start with the Director, Cronin, to walk us through the.
Thank you, Chair Childs. Good evening, members of the advisory board. Should have received a slide deck that was part of your packet. I've asked Buckley to pull it up on the screen for your viewing pleasure. This evening, I have pretty much 2 pieces to the presentation: financial piece, and there's a separate piece, an ARPA update. Although the advisory board has no vote on the ARPA funds, I thought it was compelling at this stage within the grant to update the members of the advisory board as representatives of the various communities that will receive these funds. So through your agenda, I will complete the supplemental request first. I'll pause so the chair can move to any motions or discussion that your board may have. And then I'll follow up with a separate presentation, which I think there are slides within this, the ARPA for your benefit and information, and answer any questions for that as well. This evening, the agenda includes supplemental needs, observations, motions for FY24. I'd like to start on slide 3, Bill, please. The county begins FY24 with an available surplus from FY23 of $2,586,138.06. Call-up box indicates areas where this board has previously taken this point in time to allocate funds for the stabilization account, as well as contributions to our OPEB liability. In this case, we are not looking to make any contributions at this time, and so I would recommend that the county remain liquid, keep these funds available through the end of the fiscal year, perhaps in the event we need it. We will allow putting those funds in later in the fiscal year should the funding availability still be there. Nevertheless, we have already allocated $575,000 for the FY24 capital plan. We've in this plan proposed a supplemental budget request of $337,400. And you've already appropriated $712,611.70 to offset the needs to fund the FY24 budget, thus leaving a balance of $961,126.36. Slide 4, Bill. Board members should recognize a little bit of this format that I've used in the past. To begin, some financial notes. Please observe with this fiscal year surplus compares to prior fiscal years. It does not resemble the 21 or 22 years, but it's still relatively healthy compared to the periods from fiscal year 17 to fiscal year 20. To the current stabilization fund balance is $6,084,181.92, or 16.8% of the FY24 operating budget. The Abrahams Group has pointed out in the financial guidelines that we should strive to have a stabilization fund between 5 and 20% of the operating budget to remain in a healthy position to rescue any unforeseen circumstances. So we are positioned pretty well at just under 17% in the event we find available resources before the end of the year to put into that stabilization. We'll get even closer to the 20% ceiling. Regarding the OPEB contribution, we received our GASB 7475 report on January 26th. Our overall liability was $40,129,000. We have made a contribution in FY23 and plan to make a contribution in FY24 for the operating budget of $100,000 each, which brings the overall liability projected to be $39.9 million. This regular and recurring payments was required by our auditor and our bond rating agency to maintain funds. Screen 5, please. Moving into the brief supplemental needs of the county. The first item is under information technology. The department requests $14,100 for a Dell 450 server and rack station for the engineering department, as well as funding for a Tyler cloud reporting software. These combined costs are $14,100. Furthermore, IT is seeking $15,000 for temp salaries associated with former employees to help the technology department and its Brown Tech optimization team. Moving down to registry of deeds, the county commissioners voted to support $15,000 in temp salaries for the registry of deeds. The registry had requested $50,000 in its budget request for FY24. Due to the strictures involved with funding that department, that was not affordable. Commissioners encouraged the register to approach them again in the beginning of FY24. He did. He requested $50,000 again. Looking at that request, approximately 25% through the fiscal year, you prorate that down to approximately $36,000. The commissioners elected to basically fund the register and the technology temp salaries at $30,000 combined, $15,000 each. Generally, the approach taken in that manner. Norfolk County High School does not have any supplemental needs. They do have transfer needs that were shown on the supplemental page. We can show that later, but it's a wash. Those items included professional salaries, contract services and SPED, charging stations, and modifying capital funds for West Basin storefront renovation. Again, it's a wash. We're recommending a $15,000 appropriation for the advisory board to fund legal costs associated with the lawsuit brought by the registry of deeds. This fund expended $11,761 in fiscal year 23. Slide 6, Bill. The maintenance division has a need to perform considerable amount of exterior painting and carpeting work at Rentham District Court. Cost estimates are $50,000. The largest single item in this particular supplemental is the Dedham District Court elevator. It has been undergoing a lot of repair lately. We've been informed by the vendor who services it that it's going to use for life. We received 2 estimates, one from the existing vendor, one from a separate vendor. The $200,000 request is the amount in between. This will be publicly bid. We're estimating the replacement of this elevator to be $200,000. Incidentally, that cost, when it is expended, would be a reimbursable expense for the trial court fees. Finally, the Commissioner's Office seeks $2,500 to address FY23 unpaid bills. The board should recognize in the past I've asked to carry a 10% contingency on capital-related expenses due to the volatility of supply stream costs and some inflationary expenses that are not foreseen when we receive our quotes. We're looking for funding 10% of those items, which totals in this case $25,800 from overall supplemental request of $337,400. The final slide, Madam Chair, relative to the supplemental needs, slide 7. Few observations from my perspective to yours. The county will leverage approximately $3 million in ARPA funds in FY24 to fund projects at the Wallison Recreational Facility, approximately $250,000. The Commissioner's Office at $369,000. The Treasurer's Office at $80,000. Facilities and the ports at $1 million. The schools at $369,000. Following your consideration of the motions in a moment to explain what those projects are in more detail and how they fit into the overall ARPA plan. This evening we're requesting a separate transfer from the capital improvement fund of $2 million to install the new HVAC system at Dedham Superior Court. Last year we engaged the Massachusetts Trial Court Engineering Department to have a conversation about ways to use ARPA funds to optimize improved air quality in our courts. The board should be informed that Rentham, Brookline, Stoughton, all have steam-fired boilers. The infrastructure to heat those buildings was installed when the buildings were constructed. In order to convert them to anything that would improve air quality, we'd have to do a considerable amount of replacing the steam boilers and the infrastructure that heats those buildings. In other words, those buildings and improving their air quality through ARPA funding are cost prohibitive. However, Dedham Superior and Dedham District Board are eligible for public projects that we had studied by Habib Associates this past summer. Dedham Superior Court currently uses split ductless air conditioning systems, which are not preferred in a pandemic era for cooling spaces. They circulate cool air, effectively circulate contaminate. This particular proposal would bring in outside air into this almost 200-year-old building using existing ductwork. So a rather large project that we expect through capital funding to complete this job within the next 12 months. Our hope is that in the event the county finds itself in a position of having excess capacity of funds within the ARPA grant, we will use those instead of reverting them back to the federal government. This particular expense is a capital item, is eligible for trial court reimbursement. So either way, we'll be using state reimbursable funds to recover this $2 million capital request or ARPA money in the event that it's available. So I think this is sort of a relief valve on a rather large project. The county has also completed the 21 audit, FY21 audit. It is on our website. This audit for the first time included a CFR audit, which is associated with any public organization that expends more than $750,000 in federal funds. We've complied with all guidelines associated with that audit, and we've also reported to the federal government. We will now move forward with our FY22-23 budget, audits without delay. More information on that at our next meeting. D, the county is exploring an electrical vehicle charging station grant through state utility providers for each port, school, and Walls recreational facility. The Dedham/registry location would be the first that has a preferred utility provider there. This is a grant program that the state is pushing with the utilities, working hand in hand to install electrical vehicle charging stations with little or no cost. We don't expect any cost to be come to the county. We are at the early stages of looking at this grant, but we see a very positive outcome to be able to provide this service to the public. With respect to any charges that would come forward as a result of using the charging stations, they would be equipped with an app that would run through your phone. If the community has done any of these particular grants, you'll know what I'm talking about. The county would set the rate associated with each individual location kilowatt hour cost and would recover our expenses. Early, but we may have some more exciting news to show you on that development later on. And then finally, just as I mentioned, despite a healthy FY24 surplus, the county plans to slow spending the first half of fiscal year to protect this surplus. We'll evaluate more aggressive spending or items in December, depending on how the market and revenue collections trend. Madam Chair, that concludes my presentation. There is a separate form, Bill, if you would so kind as to pull up the second budget adjustment form that the line talks commonly creates. Thank you very much. My recommendation is to refund the overall surplus to the supplemental transfer request at $2,504,400. The emotions associated with my request on the back of this packet. Thank you, Eric. Slide 16.
Before we take the motions, could we actually ask the board if there's any questions for you?
Yes.
Okay. Carl?
Through the chair to direct on with regards to the HVAC improvements at the Dedham Superior Court. You brought to whether we could use ARPA funds there or reimbursement for why would we use ARPA if those expenses are reimbursable? I would suggest that we save the ARPA and it won't affect the bottom line at this point. But the ARPA will provide for other things that aren't reimbursable through the trial court.
You're right. That is our plan. We do not intend to use ARPA funds unless we're in a position prior to December of 2024. The deadline for obligating this one approaches. We find ourselves in capacity that may result in using this project as an offset. Thank you.
Any other questions about the proposal? I'm sorry, we have, Mr. Ryan from Braintree.
Thank you. I have a couple questions. One, for the bigger projects that we're undertaking with the HVAC and the elevator, the contingency, we have contingency money in for both of those projects?
The contingency on the elevator is 10%, Charlie. And that's built into the figure I just mentioned for the capital request. With respect to the larger piece, the 2 million, the 2 million is the upper end of the recommended value associated with the study that was completed by NCAB Engineering. I'm going to show you in a minute what that range was, but I feel as though covering the $2 million level more than accommodates what could potentially be a contingency or cost overrun.
Thank you, because all of the projects I've been involved with, the construction projects are coming in over budget. And in some cases, they're coming in a lot over budget. So hopefully we have the funding, because I think we might be back looking at more funding. So that's good that you have the high end and the contingency on the elevator. The other thing is this money, although it's being appropriated for FY24, are we far enough into the process where we're going to expend the money in FY24 and the projects would be completed? Or since it's capital money, it really doesn't matter. It can just carry over into the next fiscal year.
So the question has a couple of levels to it there. I am comfortable that the request with respect to expending funds on the capital side or the operating surplus side, those projects will be done before June 30th. Some of the capital items, including the Dedham District Court, Dedham Superior Court, that item may very well move to FY25, Charlie, but because it's a federal grant, it rolls.
Good, because the other thing is a lot of the projects I've been involved with lately are being delayed because of materials availability, and it's just it's a good approach to have, that they might take a little longer than anticipated.
Got it.
I have one more question too, please. I really, well, before the question, I really like that we're using all the capital money on these larger capital projects to get some things that really need to be done completed. So I commend the staff for that approach. Another question I have is on the electric vehicle charging stations. Two questions. Do we have electric vehicles? Are we getting electric vehicles? And are we going to open it up to the public to be able to charge electric vehicles and have some mechanism in place to charge the public for charging their vehicles? Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. No, we do not currently have any electric vehicles. Doesn't mean we won't downstream. One of the reasons we don't is because we don't have an availability or a port to charge. That may change if these stations become available down the road. And second of all, yes, I believe I previously mentioned that these would be available to the public. The stations will be equipped with an app that's run by a third-party provider that does recoup the cost of the electricity drawn from the facility towards the electric vehicle charging.
Sorry, I didn't hear that when you said that it would be available to the public previously. And where are the locations again that we're going to put these charges?
Yeah, the goal is to put them in each port location as well as Walsh recreational facility in the school. The school and I have had a brief conversation. I know superintendent is angling to install a similar station. We may collaborate on the same project, or they may go in alone. But in any event, our goal is to have every county property with one charging station or array of charging stations. We're going to start with Dedham District Court behind the Registry of Deeds, because that has an Eversource connection. Eversource is the preferred utility to work with this program on, Charlie, according to the vendor that we've spoken to. It would be funded through $50,000 per site grant provided by the Department of Environmental Protection. And then the utility company also kicks in a sum of money to help offset any overages. So in initial early conversations with the vendor, you don't expect any costs coming forward to the company.
right, and then one more, please. Does Norfolk County have any obligation to have a certain percentage of our vehicle fleet be electric anytime? What type of obligation do we have there, if any?
Currently have no such pattern.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other questions from those people online? How about from anybody at the table? Go ahead.
There got to be some, I'm still trying to learn some of this stuff around budget. Two questions on the HVAC system. Is it a heat pump system or is it more of an incremental upgrade to what's already in place?
It will not be a heat pump, as proposed by the engineer. It would be a full system. They do not currently have any outside air circulation. They use split ductless systems in the main portions, and those are even prepared. So it's all new construction in ductile. They're actually going to be using Venice Superior. You see these wrought iron grates that were used years ago, which generated problem before. Those chase waves from moving the ductwork people need to use this new HVAC system. So it's not.
I'm balanced in my push for things like this, but I was just trying to understand that if the engineer didn't recommend it, is it just that it's just not sensible to do a heat pump because of the ductwork you have to live with? Was it looked at and rejected?
I specifically don't recall one engineering with that recommendation. We have it for the read it. When it was explained to us, they were looking at the most cost-effective measure to bring the solution to the whole building. As Charlie points out, we do expect some change orders on the top of the spot or the drywall is bring 100% outside here. Great, I don't have the time.
So my main question was whether it was considered, and I guess there's either a good reason why it wasn't considered as a sort of a retrofit or it wasn't considered.
And bear in mind, with your approval tonight, giving this green light to fund something, just like what we did, and if it's this board's intention, the commissioner rather, you can certainly request it forward to have an alternative bid with pumps. That's something that they want to do.
Second question has to do with OPEB. I thought I heard you say that the auditors were the ones that required that $100,000 a year.
Your auditors, Medfield, my auditors, every auditor will say they want regular and recurring payments to hold that line.
Well, yeah, there's certainly actuaries doing your projections. They're going to evaluate one. I was surprised that it was as low an annual contribution as it was compared, because we started off with a similar obligation. Medfield, we're up to $550,000 a year. But the real question I had is if the auditors are the ones that require it, we deferred putting money into it in this presentation. And what I'm asking is if it's not a discretion, it's effectively not a discretionary decision. Why are we deferring it? Unless we think maybe it'll be.
Let me I want to emphasize one thing. We are making a contribution. That's the budgetary $100,000 line.
Yep.
And that's part why. So the consideration, we've done this on experience last couple of years. We've pushed a little bit more above that as the surface stated, pointed out, we've had generous surfaces in FY 22 and 23. We put an additional $200,000 or so. So I understand the OPEB argument. In my community, we're hyperfunding it. I don't believe that's the right thing to do, but that might be otherwise. It does tie up a lot of operating cash to try to achieve the end game of the funding obligation by a date that leaves something to somebody. But as long as the state is not chasing them down, about 350 other communities disagree with that. So it's as long as the bond agency and the auditors are satisfied that you will at least regularly current payments, that's all they care about.
And in our case, I can't figure it's 50 years to dig the hole. We should at least give ourselves 50 years. So Gatsby's guidance didn't really carry a lot of weight. But does the county cover current OPEB liabilities in your current year? Is that a pay as you go?
Yes.
So this is a true contribution against liabilities that every year you're paying as you go for this year. Our experience in that is that the actuaries are overly conservative in what the long-term obligations are. So our obligations go down by more than pay.
So you are correct. Okay. And if I had the applicant with an actuary, to get more into this detail. I think the finance provide enough clues. I don't understand why the liability includes as much as the year. Pension liability modifications that are obviously complicated than my bandwidth can handle. It does, it has liabilities gone down a lot, the last 12 months, beyond our.
In our case, not that I'm an expert, but I was the chair of the first committee. It was that the way the long-term liability is calculated, there's a certain amount that they project every year. Your actual liability is lower than that actual amount. They retire, you earn your actual amount, so they add a discount.
Yeah, very conservative.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just on what you were saying, all these capital items, was the maintenance director involved in any prices or?
Yes, of course.
Involved in all the problems, involved in all the discussion, prices.
Yes, except the larger capital needs, which were as soon as we're not specified.
Couple of questions, the IT temporary salaries, they asking for nothing, you give them $15,000. They asking nothing, why the commission recommend?
The request for temporary salaries, as I mentioned, Polito came in through the registry fees. In his letter to the registry, letter to the commissioners, indicated a willingness to use temporary salaries towards the Brown Tech optimization team, which the commissioners agreed was a good investment. Managing that project falls to the chief information officer under information technology. So we'll use the temporary salaries for those experts under his budget. It's effectively moving funds from the registrar's request into the department which will be responsible for the task.
So basically giving $30,000, 15 and 15.
That's right.
So part of the $50,000 he asked for, was that the IT part of that money he asked for? Or I don't know what it,
Yes.
I don't know the 50 was used for. Salaries of the IT also.
Could you repeat the question?
Was the $50,000 he asked for, was it the extra salaries in the office? Would that involve the office and IT?
The register, as I'll reiterate, the register's request for temporary employees included number of employees to support the services within the registry fees. He added the same individuals who have experience and knowledge of the Brown Tech software system that contribute to the optimization team that Mr. Evans is managing. Commissioners did as they said, we agree. We're going to put that resource, however, under technology because he's managing the optimization. He's also going to give the register resources as he had requested for temporary employees. Okay.
So still, well, mine still got $20,000.
I want to remind you, Mr. Lino, that we are approaching the middle of September. The register asked $50,000 effective July 1st. We're effectively 75% of the fiscal year remaining if it was prorated.
Legal fees, is that a new line item, all of a sudden we get a legal fee budget under the budget board, did that ever happen?
Yes, your board approved legal fees last year when it became named in the lawsuit for the registry.
Was that in the regular attorney's fees for the county, or was that separate line?
So we expended 11,000.
Separate line, so. And the other items are all charges and administration, that's within the budget, that is moving within one budget.
Craig can answer repeat the question.
So the one with the sped services, the EV charging and the administration bill. That money is already in the 20.
That's correct. Yes,
It's moving to another line.
That's correct.
Any other questions for me? People sitting around the table. I'm sorry, Mr. Ryan, yes, you have another question.
I apologize. I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing. So for the HVAC system at the courthouse, I know someone asked a question about heat pumps. Being a state employee, we have to look at our buildings to be green buildings and, you know, look at fossil fuel elimination. Do any of those guidelines apply to the county? And was that taken into consideration? I had a hard time hearing the discussion a little bit.
The answer,
Thank you.
The answer is no, Charlie. We are not bound by the state's guidelines for building.
Okay, and then this might be a silly question, but the elevator, have we looked at ADA compliances and is there any issues and is that gonna be okay with ADA compliance?
That's a great question. It's the first question we asked to, the court personnel to find out if there's any staff or, impact relative to jurors or other visitors that would need access. The elevator is still operating. It's undergoing chronic and regular repair, so it's still carrying people to the top floor. The Dedham District Court personnel and informed our maintenance people that they continue using that system. They do not have anybody with limited mobility at this time. It's impacted if the elevator went out for any extended period of time.
Okay, I was just thinking from a general public using the elevator too, and if the new elevator would meet all guidelines, the reconstructed elevator, which you think it would?
Certainly will, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Charlie. Okay.
The other, they're going to the same spot it is now.
This is the same shop.
I mean, what happens if, with, Mr. Ryan said, what happens if it's under repair? A year or so, somebody has to use the elevator who's coming to court. How do we deal with those issues? On the ADA issue?
With respect to the operation of the courts, we don't dictate how that will work. The court personnel will make the decisions if there are limited mobility personnel, jurors, whatever, they'll have to use the first support, how to work around it. And we'll be working with them as this task unfolds. One question I do not have, and we get that when we did this, is how long it will process take. In my prior life, I've been through a similar task. It takes about 2 weeks. They will not begin the work until all the equipment.
I thought it was a long process.
In my experience, using existing mechanical operations, what you're doing is physically replacing the box, mechanical equipment, all the technology, maybe some cables. And the task is you've got to get everything in before you begin the work. Once the work gets going, my one experience, Brian Myers word is 2 weeks. It'll be longer, but we'll see how it goes. We'll communicate that very clearly.
Months, 2 weeks.
I don't.
Okay. I don't know myself. I'm just.
Because the bidding process is longer than the actual.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Yeah, is there anybody else on the table? Okay, nobody online. Charlie, are you all set? Yep.
I'm all set, and it's really
Okay.
good to hear
All right.
Mr. Cronin say that's the approach for the elevator. Don't let them start any work on it till they have all the parts. Because I've lived through an elevator reconstruction where we waited for parts, and I think that's a very good approach. Thank you.
All right, register, I will recognize you, yes.
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair, thank you, board members. Relative to this temporary request, this category has always been funded. Last year, when County Director Cronin recommended it at 0, again, other departments didn't get recommended to 0. The school, the golf course, the Treasurer's Department actually got temporary money. We've had temporary money to a higher extent than $50,000 over the years, as high as $70,000. And again, people like Rich Kennedy, who worked 34 years here, he retired. Gary Lubin, 1967 to 2015, retired, and we used temporary to get pretty highly skilled people and others into work. So there is no restriction. I've heard the county director say there's restrictions that would prevent you from doing a higher amount. And I guess through the chair, my question is, the audit report that just came out said of these needs excise funds, subject to litigation, chapter 64D, section 12A, a minimum of 40% is to be allocated to the registry of deeds related functions and operations. I'm going to rely on the letters I've sent to you, but my question is, and your attorney in court said no, the registry has to spend that 40% down. Why is the registry being prevented from using these excise money to fund, say, this particular request of $50,000? I sent a letter to everybody where in just 2 months, the registry's 40% share was $88,000. So through the chair, why can't the registry spend the monies that by statute are the registries?
Thank you. Thank you very much for that question. First thing is, we won't comment on the lawsuit issue, but would you like to make any response to this?
Broadly speaking, I think the registrar spoke on maybe 3 or 4 levels of material relative to his appropriation, I will state it unequivocally, his budget is sufficiently funded according to chapter 64 of the Mass General Laws. We took existing spending, we expanded it by 2.5% pursuant to general. This board approved that. So he is getting what is required by law. The register makes a point that there's nothing in the law that prohibits this board from providing additional funds. The commission has elected not to do that. To fund it as you see it today. Thank you.
Thank you, Register, that's enough, I think.
No, there were a couple other registry matters in one involved mandate 64D section 12B, where the mandate in that motion is being reduced. And as I said in my letter, it's taken a final lawsuit. But
Thank you, Mr. Breeden, point of order, yes?
I don't know that this is germane to the discussion.
Yes, okay. Thank you, I recognize your point of order, it is not, correct? We have an open meeting law rule here, that is not germane to this. Sorry.
so the motion is reducing the mandate that you voted in May, which pertains to the registry. So
Yes, but not.
why couldn't you have discussion on that? Because
Madam Chair,
Thank you.
I-
One minute, Mr. Register.
I believe that question was answered.
That question was answered. Okay, thank you very much. I think we will, the point of order is recognized.
The question wasn't answered correctly.
Yeah.
This
So
is-
that subject is closed, Register. What, did you have another question?
On,
Was that-
how about this, on Dean's excise, was any of the $4.2 million that the registry had in the account as of July 10th, 2022, which the motion here was 4 million and that later 3.8 million. Was any of the 4.2 million run through the books to through fiscal 23?
Yeah, I would call for the point of order. The letter that was sent out to all members of the board, yesterday, which was inside of the 48-hour requirement to be on the agenda. So it's not appropriate to speak on that, on your letter from yesterday, otherwise we could be in violation of what you're moving on. So I would suggest to the board that you not entertain any conversation on that letter until a future. That can be put on a posted meeting on the agenda.
The letter that went up yesterday, this is totally separate. I'm not discussing the letter that went up yesterday. That's 64D, section
Thank you,
11.
Register. I think
This is the $4.2 million that for 31 years.
that is not on our
Register.
agenda today.
Well, I'm just asking, where did it go, especially when in your audit report, it says for
Point
the
of
current
order.
fiscal year.
Thank you, Mr.
There
Register.
are financial
Excuse me,
mistakes.
just a
The
second.
register is not a member of this. Recognizes the courtesy.
Yes. Thank you, Register, we have to sit down.
So I can't ask any questions.
I think we handled the question on the budget item that is on our agenda.
Respectfully, for the record, no meeting, argument, it has nothing to do with what we're discussing. That is with the retirement pensions liability issue, which wasn't.
Thank you for your comments, Register, we're gonna move on. Okay. Now, can I have a report from the finance committee chair
Absolutely.
on the motions? If everybody could turn to slide 16 in their packet. We'll see the proposed motions. Recommend speak to the attorney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The finance committee did meet today before this meeting, and we discussed all three motions that are before the board. One does require a 2/3 vote, just as a point. The director gave us information on all of these, and all of the motions were voted on to recommend to the NCAB full board in front of it. So we are looking for the finance committee is supporting all three motions as written.
Would you like to make the motion?
I will be happy to make
All
the
right.
motion. Motion number one. Motion is to revise the fiscal 24 registry of deeds appropriation pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 64D, Section 12, from $3,305,713.22 to $3,287,607.47, a reduction of $18,105.75. Based on actual fiscal year 23 registry of deeds expenditures of $3,207,421.92, with said revised amount funded by a minimum of $1,820,000, which is 40% to fund the fiscal year 24 registry of deeds appropriation and indirect process. From the fiscal year 24 deeds and excise estimate. Said reduction shall be from account number 001.340.5275.00.0000.00 office machinery and appliances repairs.
There's a second. That motion.
Second.
Any further discussion about that one motion?
The 18,000, why is that reduction?
When we,
In order to that, or that number you talked about?
yes, when we built the FY 24 budget, we built it on estimated spending. Now that the books are closed at 23, we're building it on actual spending. So as a result, the 2.5% growth reflects this change.
So where's the $18,000 going?
Yeah.
Where some other budget gonna get $18,000 or go in the operating budget somewhere else?
No,
It's gonna be $18,000.
It goes to the county.
That goes to the county general fund, so we're spending somewhere else, later on, more than five.
Service.
That's the issue.
We have no intention, there is no plan to spend that.
Yes, yeah, it's only over the year, yeah. The coming out of office machines and appliances. What was the budget in that item last year compared to what, the year, it'd be. Technically, I don't know what budget last year, it'd be $50,000, I have no idea.
This happened to be an appropriation that sufficient funds to cover the $18,000 reduction. An email was sent to the Register of Deeds asking him for a preference of where this reduction would come from. No response was received from the register. This is an area of his budget that he's previously indicated a willingness to transfer money out of. He can easily cover this particular reduction.
Saying something about it, that you want to make sure that you know.
That's
I disagree with this, I disagree with this, look. I mean, we can give the budget light on, okay? There's a disagreement with philosophy of your philosophy, his philosophy, are totally different. You gain the money, now you want to take it away from him.
With respect, Mr. Polito, I'm the county director.
I know you are, and I disagree with your
remarks, sir. I make my recommendation.
I speak of the advisory board member,
I'd like to just speak, sir.
okay, you speak, I'll speak after.
Thank you. We don't want to talk over each other. For the benefit.
Talk, I'll talk after.
My recommendation is made to the Norfolk County Commissioners who vote on this, on their favorable vote put to this board. I don't make the decision, sir. Thank you.
You make a recommendation to the commission, so your recommendation to the commission is that they accept your recommendation.
I would
And
also.
I don't disagree with your recommendation because you gave the money, now you indicate it, give it to them, now you take it away. Because you don't agree with the philosophy he had.
I would also point out that this board votes on financial numbers after they've been approved by the commissioners and sent to us. So this is what is being sent to us.
We can deny that request from commissioners too.
Yes, pardon me.
Just to clarify, the difference, Mr. Polito, is that the original amount is estimate. We're basing this now on actual. So the $18,000 reduction is based on actual spending as opposed to an estimated spending. So in essence, they spent less, a little bit less than for the entire year than what was budgeted. Because of that, the calculation shows it's $18,000 reduction.
Maybe he
That's
would
what it is, an actual versus estimate. That's what the difference is.
That's my question.
All right,
I
thank you
still
very
speak-
much. The
I-
question has been
I
moved.
haven't finished.
No, the question has been moved.
Statement.
I didn't hear a move, who moved? I didn't hear
I'm
it.
sorry, the motion. All right, we have to vote on the question we have to go to call the question. Is there a second on the motion to call the question?
It wasn't said. Oh, sorry.
Thank you very much. On the motion to call the question, how many are in
Excuse
favor?
me, it's a Zoom meeting, have to do a roll call.
Yeah, oh, yes, thank you very much.
Well done.
I'm so glad I've got all these parliamentarians to help me. Okay. I believe, Phil, and we're gonna have to take a roll call vote on the motion to call the question. To move the question, I'm sorry, to move the question. Phil, Barbara? You ready?
I'm ready anytime Bill is.
I'm
Okay,
all set. Go ahead.
Okay.
Avon,
Thank you.
Everyone votes aye.
Bellingham,
Aye.
Braintree,
Aye.
Brookline,
Aye.
Canton,
Yes.
Cohasset,
Aye.
Dedham,
No.
Dover, Foxborough, Franklin,
Yes.
Holbrook,
Aye.
Medfield,
Aye.
Medway, Millis, Milton,
Aye.
Needham, Norfolk, Norwood, Plainville,
Yes.
Quincy,
Aye.
Randolph,
Yes.
Sharon, Stoughton, Walpole,
Yes.
Wellesley, yes. Westwood,
Aye.
Weymouth, Rentham.
Bill,
Did Rentham vote?
No,
I have 69.17 yes and 3.51 no.
if the motion to move the question passes, we are now gonna move the question, we'll go to the voting of the main motion. Okay,
I already made the
we
motion.
have a motion
Have
and
a
a second, okay. Barbara, you ready?
sure.
Okay.
Avon,
Aye.
Bellingham,
Aye.
Braintree,
Aye.
Brookline,
Aye.
Canton,
Yes.
Cohasset,
Aye.
Dedham,
No.
Dover, Foxborough, Franklin,
Yes.
Holbrook,
Aye.
Medfield,
Aye.
Medway, Millis, Milton,
Aye.
Needham, Norfolk, Norwood, Plainville,
Yes.
Quincy,
Yes.
Randolph,
Yes.
Sharon,
Yes.
Stoughton, Walpole,
Yes.
Wellesley, yes. Westwood.
Aye.
Weymouth. Rentham.
I have
Bill?
69.17 yes and 3.51 no.
Okay, the motion number one carries. Let's move on to motion number two.
So I make the motion, Madam Chair, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 35, Section 28B. Motion to approve the withdrawal and appropriation of $2 million from capital improvement fund. Fund the Devon Superior Court Heating, Ventilation, and Air Conditioning HVAC project. First study received from MB Associates, August 11th, 2023. This requires a 2/3 vote.
Second,
Second, Braintree.
thank you, Charlie. All right, any further discussion? Yes,
Why can't we just put the, I'm just starting. The $2 million and the other $200,000 elevator project, could that be? Combined to be one, no,
Different pots of money.
okay,
This, you may recall,
I'm not, I'm for the project, I just want to know why we couldn't do it all.
that's a good question. You may recall in July, when the county received the proceeds from the sale of Quincy, created $10 million capital improvement fund. That's where the $2 million is coming. The Dedham Superior Court, the other capital items. Supplemental funds. Okay, thank you.
okay, any further discussion on motion number two? Okay, let's vote. Barbara, okay,
Okay. Avon,
Aye.
Bellingham,
aye.
Braintree,
Aye.
Brookline,
Aye.
Canton,
Yes.
Cohasset,
Aye.
Dedham,
Aye.
Dover, Foxborough, Franklin,
Yes.
Holbrook,
Yes.
Medfield,
Aye.
Medway, Millis, Milton,
Yes.
Needham, Norfolk, Norwood, Plainville,
Yes.
Quincy. Quincy?
Yes.
Okay. Randolph,
Yes.
Sharon,
Yes.
Stoughton, Walpole,
Yes.
Wellesley, yes. Westwood,
Aye.
Weymouth, Rentham.
Bill?
I have 72.68 yes, unanimous.
Thank you very much, that's okay, motion number 3.
So I'll make a motion to fund a total of $2,504,400, inclusive of supplemental capital and transfer needs as provided in the attached fiscal 24 second budget adjustment form.
Second,
Second Braintree.
thank you. Any further discussion of number 3? Okay, hearing none, I think we're ready for the roll call, Barbara.
Okay, Avon,
Aye.
Bellingham,
Aye.
Braintree,
Aye.
Brookline,
Aye.
Canton,
Yes.
Cohasset,
Aye.
Dedham,
No.
Dover, Foxborough, Franklin,
Yes.
Holbrook,
Yes.
Medfield,
Aye.
Medway, Millis, Milton,
Yes.
Needham, Norfolk, Norwood, Plainville,
Yes.
Quincy,
Yes.
Quincy,
Yes.
sorry, Randolph,
Yes.
Sharon,
Yes.
Stoughton, Walpole,
Yes.
Wellesley, yes, Westwood,
Aye.
Weymouth, Rentham,
Bill,
I have 70.86 yes and 3.51 no.
okay, thank you very much, the motion passes. Thank you very much. I think the next item on the agenda is ARPA update. If you can turn in your slide deck to page 8. I think that's the time that we've gone with that.
Thank you, Chairwoman Childs. In the interest of time, we'll go through the slide deck relatively quickly. I would welcome any questions that you on behalf of the communities may have. Slide 8 is for the benefit of the commissioners to see how far we've come since March 10th, 2021, when President Biden signed the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan Act. The early part of 2021, the commissioners moved to determine the breadth of this program and what it could do for Norfolk County. One of the things they very smartly did was join with the other counties in Massachusetts to run a program with shared services to optimize the amount of money we would spend administratively. Those meetings with help with the other counties at the time prior to the release of the first grant, which was in December of 2021. It's a great time. Since then, 130 applications for this program have been awarded by the commissioners that total over $90 million. The overall administrative costs associated with this grant are approximately 1% of the total grant. Recall, Norfolk County took 3% of $137 million. It's about $4 million. We're spending about $1 million overall on administrative costs. The rest of it will be going back into Norfolk County related projects. These details are borne out on slide 9, Bill. So, look. The amount of prop money that is going back to your communities is $133 million. Expended to date as of August 16th, I just gave the recent update, was 86. The commission was since awarded for the funds. So we have approximately $46 million left to go. As I mentioned earlier, that obligation period ends December 31st, 2024. And we believe with high certainty that we'll be able to achieve the obligation of these funds and the optimization. We'll hear further about that piece once we turn the clock into 2024. Slide number 10, Bill. So as the county has now distributed about 2/3 of the funds under their guidance of communities first, the county must now plan to use the allocated funds so that proper obligations can be achieved for that time frame. The county engaged the trial court engineers, as I mentioned earlier, in October for guidance on areas of need. Those studies were released in August of 2023. The first study Charlie, I hope you're listening. This was the area I referred to that showed the broad range of study costs associated with this. Were broken into 3 expected areas. Again, the age of the building, these costs, I think, cover some unexpected areas of renovation that might be encountered. The new ventilation system will include equipment, ducting, structural reinforcement of the roof, as well as architectural soffits, modification, patching, finish. The range is wide, so as you can see, we're erring on the higher end of 2 million to the lower end of 1.25. See how it goes when we put it on the table. The second study, which is, in my opinion, the bang for the buck for Norfolk County, was to look at a building management system to enable our facilities department to control our HVAC systems, beginning with Dedham District 4. The goal eventually to use this system into all our courts and buildings so that we can electronically monitor, control, and establish set points for occupancy when no one's there to save on energy consumption. This particular system, again, will piloted in Dedham. This item is expected to cost approximately $800,000. It will be ARPA eligible. We'll put that into the portal for the commissioner's consideration and award very shortly. Slide 13 shows you an overall ARPA budget. This captures both the planned and the previously approved ARPA projects. This includes the planned use of $250,000 on the new restroom on the false recreational course. I believe it's goal number 15, which you see a standalone structure to allow golfers to find respite, which is a good distance away from the main clubhouse. Did I say that right, Mr. Conley? Did I cover that?
Better than the 2 trees we have now.
The county commissioner's office has awarded already $192,000 for premium pay, $20,000 for COVID test kits. And just when you thought you bought your last test kit, we're back in that business. You just recently purchased more, still against that value. We paid for the Habib studies for this particular grant, $29,000. And as I mentioned earlier, Mr. Reardon asked questions about the Alzheimer's Association program. That's a grant nonprofit that is located here in Norfolk County, does great work to raise funds. And an annual walk, that program of $127,890 helps this nonprofit recover from the pandemic when that walk was otherwise not raising. The treasurer's office is looking for $80,000 for a literacy program. And then finally, facilities maintenance has $800,000 for the building management, and then another $200,000 for miscellaneous upgrades. Earlier, Mr. Polito asked me if I collaborated with my facility director. Mr. McGowan had informed me that there were a variety of smaller units in front of those steam systems that could be replaced and upgraded to enable them to run more efficiently. They're by no means a solution to the bigger problem of getting fresh air, but they are eligible for ARPA, and we will be putting out a request in for those. The Norfolk County Agricultural High School has 2 items. They seek to put HVAC units and controls in Kent Hall for $250,000. Another $119,000 in premium pay benefits. The trustees met in this room, actually on this campus a couple of weeks ago. The superintendent has designs on additional projects that will be ARPA eligible. But this time they're trying to keep space in the event, yet more capacity, talking to the schools, talking to the boards and other areas to make sure that we don't leave any funds unexpended and we do as much as we can to help our assets improve. So overall, as you can see, our county allocation at 3% was $4.1 million, with the projected administrative expenses of $1.1 million. That leaves an available balance of $3 million for projects. Just above, I mentioned we are looking to fund a total of 2.067, which leaves that balance $963,000. That will flow until we find out what's going on with Dedham Superior and some other projects that the commissioners may have in mind. We do intend to expend those funds well before December 2024. Commissioners voted on slide number 14, Bill. No motion is required here, Madam Chair, of the advisory board, but for your benefit, we're laying out how the motion in the individual costs played out per project. Slide 15. We've done all of those 2 pages there. Have that. Slide 16 was where we began. So overall, the county is looking to now invest in its infrastructure, on the money that it has, which is approximately $3 billion. More information on how ARPA and the program will begin to sunset, probably after, 7 meeting, probably in the spring, I'll be back to tell you how we're looking to make sure that each of your communities, optimizes the amount that's been allocated. And if they require additional funds and commission to see fit, we'll work out a method by which we can get them resources. We've had a variety of conversations around the table. I did talk to Franklin, I have talked to Brookline. There are a lot of communities that are interested in more money if it becomes available beyond the application. Won't know that until after the meeting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kernan. I have a question.
Yeah, so the, out of the, $2 million, that's for all or respect? Both. That's a blend of each. Question about the treasure dollars. Let's go, what can you explain? What's that about?
The treasurer has come forward with
I mean, those two things, something different.
financial risk.
Yeah.
The treasurer came forward with a concept that has not yet been voted on by the commissioners, but it would include reaching out to councils on aging, senior citizens, and vulnerable populations on how to manage their electronic funds in their accounts. What little I know about this space comes from a personal experience where an elderly individual was conned online, and the individual lost quite a lot of money. The treasurer intends to bring an expert to these targeted areas within Norfolk County to teach them about financial literacy, especially in this age of electronic processing. We'll learn more about. We'll learn more about it.
Yeah, I get you, Jim. That's right. Thank you.
And any other questions? Yes.
I think I know the answer. First item on the walls, the restroom, the side note says 75,000 was previously appropriated, but this 250,000 totally covered the project. I assume 75,000 drops back.
It is already appropriated because previously appropriated. We were examining prefabricated solutions. What was available for 75,000 is more to the block, center block house. We're looking at something a little bit more standard, and as Charlie pointed out, the costs of then installing it were unexpectedly high. That included the cost.
Yeah, I was just doing the math. So we're at 75,000. That's all.
It's amazing to think that $250,000 can get us to the restroom 5 years ago.
You have another
I
question?
think I'm gonna want to drive back and try it out.
Do you have other questions?
Just at the end, when ABBA was over at the end of December 24. December 2024. Does all the money have to be spent on those towns or just appropriated by us? I'm just.
That's a great question.
I don't know.
Many of you I know sit on select boards, you know the dynamics. The way ARPA is set up is it has to be, the key word is obligated or incumbent. You have to have the funds obligated as of December 2024. And then have 2 more years spending.
Okay, that's what.
It's not obligated. If it does.
I didn't know how to spend money. How much then they incumbent to spend it in a couple years. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we will move on. Thank you very much. The county's done a great job. Commissioners, thank you so much for heading on that. All right. Get ready to do minutes. Oh, yes.
Consideration of everyone.
Yeah, Steve Feinstein from Foxborough.
Yes.
Well, I think we
Yes.
just want to make sure we acknowledge that you're on the call.
I'm here. I am present.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, Phil, can you make a note to include Foxborough for the next roll calls, and Barbara for include Foxborough? Okay. All right, so the next item on the agenda is the minutes of the executive session.
Open session.
Minutes of the open session. Okay. Minutes of the open session. Yes.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to remove the minutes of the open session meeting on July 10th, 2023.
Okay.
Second, Milton.
Thank you very much. We have to do a roll call vote on this one. Ms. Saros, you are on the line again. Okay.
Through you, Madam
All right.
Chair, I just want to point out
Yes.
there is the gentlelady from Wellesley did point out that it should be brought and not bought. So there was a
Okay. All
good
right.
news
Thank
error
you.
there.
Okay, there's a typo. All right. As amended, Brett, so we're going to approve them as amended. Any other corrections? Okay. Barbara, I think we're ready.
Okay, Avon,
Aye.
Bellingham,
Aye.
Braintree,
Aye.
Brookline,
Aye.
Canton,
Yes.
Cohasset,
Aye.
Dedham,
Yes.
Dover, Foxborough,
aye,
Franklin,
Yes.
Holbrook,
Aye.
Medfield,
Aye.
Medway, Millis, Milton,
Yes.
Needham, Norfolk, Norwood, Plainville,
Yes.
Quincy. Quincy?
Yes.
Okay, Randolph,
Yes.
Sharon,
Yes.
Stoughton, Walpole,
Yes.
Wellesley, yes, Westwood,
Abstain.
Weymouth, Rentham.
Okay, Phil?
Hold on one second, I'm just doing the abstentions. I have 69.76 yes and 2.92 abstaining.
Thank you very much. The motion passes. Our next item of business is the minutes of the executive session meeting of July 10th, 2023 for approval. I want to remind members that although we're voting on these in open session, the minutes will not be released until the matter in which they are relevant to is resolved.
So, Madam Chair, I will make a motion to approve the minutes of the executive session meeting
Thank
of
you.
July 10th, 2023, as well as the motion to approve that these minutes do not be made public until after the issue in the minutes is resolved.
Great.
Sorry, that's a.
Thank you. We got it. Okay. We have a second for that motion.
Second. I'm out.
Thank you. Okay. All right. There's no discussion. Let's vote them. I think,
Okay. Avon,
Aye.
Bellingham,
Aye.
Braintree,
Aye.
Brookline,
aye.
Canton,
Yes.
Cohasset,
Aye.
Dedham,
Aye.
Dover, Foxborough,
aye,
Franklin,
Yes.
Holbrook,
Aye.
Medfield,
Aye.
Medway, Millis, Milton,
Yes.
Needham, Norfolk, Norwood, Plainville,
Yes.
Quincy,
Yes.
Randolph,
Yes.
Sharon,
Yes.
Stoughton, Walpole,
Yes.
Wellesley, yes, Westwood,
Abstain.
Weymouth, Rentham.
Okay, Phil.
Okay, I have 71.80 yes and 2.92 abstaining.
Thank you very much. That motion passes as well. Are there any emergency items or topics that we didn't anticipate that need to be discussed? Anything from the commissioners?
Also, thank you so much for your vote and dedication to accountability.
I have one thing I'd like to say,
Please.
point of personal privilege.
Please.
I just want to once again thank you for the people in the town of Canton, to my fellow board members, and also Mr. Cronin and Mr. Buckley and Chairman Shea, Commissioner Collins and Commissioner Stady for the seals of weights and measures. We kicked it off. It's working beautiful. I'm sleeping well at night because I know when I buy my pound of bologna, I'm getting a pound. So I want to say thank you because we couldn't find anybody.
He brought the pound of bologna here now.
Thank you. I want to say thank you
So
sincerely. Couldn't find anybody. And John's hard work and Billy's hard work was greatly appreciated. And we announced it last night. And I
publicly wanted to thank you at the meeting I did last night, and again, so thank you for.
We have four Norfolk counties in the program, and yes, we have 4 county communities in the program, and we're open for business.
Mr. Padula.
Franklin, yes, and Franklin is using it, very happy with it, very smooth. Pretty happy, so another example of what the county does for local. Taking advantage of it. Working out well.
Madam Chair,
Yes, of course.
could you recognize the new members, please?
Oh,
Representatives,
that's a great, thank you very much, Ms. Connors. Okay. Would you like to introduce yourself from Holbrook for us? That would be wonderful.
Patty Conway, and the person from Holbrook. Yes, good evening, everyone. I'm Mary, and I'm the blank thanks. I'm the chair of the Westwood Select Board. Nice to meet you.
Did I miss anybody online? You can bring online this up. Well, Diane, have you introduced yourself? Did you introduce yourself before?
I don't remember, but this is my second, I think, year. I just finished my 12 years on the Cohasset Select Board, and I'm now a private citizen, so to speak, but was very happy to return to the Norfolk County Advisory Board. So thank you.
Good. I don't think I missed anybody else. Thank you very much. Any other topics that we did not?
Yeah, just a question, maybe for next meeting, it wasn't an agenda one, but I'd like that, some issues that we received a letter from the Richard Deeds about the retirement money. No, not tonight. But next meeting. So I'm not bringing it tonight.
Okay.
Because it wasn't on the agenda, so. And I mean, it's a very tough letter that's not right. We should address it. So I'm saying next meeting, not tonight.
Okay.
On the agenda.
Could I suggest that if anybody wants that to be on the agenda, that just let us know that, just send us an email. Let us know about this.
Those are some serious, if it's true or not, I don't know. He's saying that, but it's some serious things in there.
Well, I agree with you, and that's the reason why I made it, why I was bringing up the point of order, because there's allegation there that would have to be researched, followed up on, maybe get legal counsel involved. It's not as simple as just having a discussion about the state.
Right.
So just,
So yeah, just, yes.
And also, we
Send
always.
me email if anybody else is interested. That'd be lovely.
And I think I just said, gentlemen, we get a letter from the Walpole, I don't know, mine was handwritten, I don't know who it came from, what's the address? Can we maybe address that as, there makes another allegation, I don't know if it's true or not.
Okay.
Can we address those at next meeting, all I'm saying, these are allegations to us, the advisory board men.
Well, the Walpole one, though, I think is more of a notification than an allegation to the advisory.
Right, but we all got, I guess, what are some good side people?
Yeah.
It's true or not, I have no idea.
I got it in the mail, handwritten.
Yeah, mine was handwritten. I don't know if it's true or not, but it came to us, but at least address it.
Let's have our lawyer and.
I told my wife I got this letter in the mail and it has no return address on it, so it's one of the few I open up, so. I should have ripped it up when I got it. I mean, if someone doesn't put their return address on something, it really is not, as far as I'm concerned, it's not worth my time. I opened it up, I looked at it very briefly. It's not worth my time. We're gonna let our board and our people who be hired look at these issues. Because I can say anything I want at any time. It doesn't mean anything about whether it's real or truthful or has any merit. So I'll tell you, I can't tell you how many of those pieces of mail I get. Happy to throw them away. I should have thrown this away as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's true or not, I mean, I have no idea, I just raised the issue back up the bill.
Thank you.
Comes with no address on it.
Right, no,
It's absolutely nothing.
I brought my envelope, so it shows it, just keeps my name.
All right. Any other items that could not have been reasonably anticipated? I don't think so. Okay, so motion to adjourn? Thank you very much. Do we need to take a roll call on the motion to adjourn?
I don't think we need a vote, I don't think we need a vote.
All right, I guess we gotta do it one more time, Barbara. All right.
Okay, here we go.
Aye.
Avon,
Aye.
Bellingham,
Aye.
Braintree,
Aye.
Brookline,
Aye.
Canton,
Yes.
Cohasset,
Aye.
Dedham,
Yes.
Dover, Foxborough,
aye.
Franklin. Franklin? Okay,
Either.
Yes.
okay. Holbrook,
Yes.
Medfield,
Aye.
Medway, Millis, Milton,
Aye.
Needham, Norfolk, Norwood. Oh, Norfolk's here?
Late arriving, aye.
Okay. Norwood. Plainville, Plainville?
Yes.
Okay. Quincy,
Yes.
Randolph,
Yes.
Sharon,
Yes. Yes.
Stoughton,
What's up?
Walpole,
Yes.
Wellesley, yes. Westwood,
Yes.
Aye.
Weymouth, Rentham.
Motion carries. Thank you, Barbara. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Drive carefully.
Thank you.
Stay dry.